The crystalline spires of Haven's Watch glittered like frozen starlight against the purple-tinged atmosphere of Serenus Prime. The research outpost, established by the Lumini not 3 cycles ago, represented their species' furthest venture into the uncharted regions of the Outer Rim. Their delicate structures, designed for beings evolved in 1/6 Earth gravity, seemed to defy physics as they stretched toward the binary stars above. Chief researcher Lyra Vec adjusted her atmospheric filters as she studied the latest readings from the ancient ruins. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted through shades of blue and green, reflecting her growing excitement. The artifacts they'd discovered in the depths of the massive structure weren't just pre-collapse technology. They were intact and still generating power signatures. "First observer," she called out, her translucent appendages rippling with anticipation. "The energy patterns are stabilizing. I believe we found something unprecedented." First observer Toll drifted across the control room, his own patterns pulsing with scholarly interest. The Lumini's natural ability to float served them well in the low-gravity environment, though they still relied on stabilization fields to prevent random drift while working. "Show me," he requested, his voice carrying the musical undertones characteristic of their species. The holographic display expanded, showing a 3-dimensional map of the ruins. Deep beneath the surface, a pulsing core of energy grew steadily brighter. "The power signature doesn't match anything in our archives," Lyra explained. "It's not precursor technology, nor does it align with any known civilization's energy patterns." "Fascinating," Tal murmured, his tendrils weaving complex patterns that indicated deep thought. "Have you informed the Council?" I was about to prepare the report when Lyra's voice trailed off as a new alert flashed across her screens. "First observer, we're detecting multiple objects dropping out of FTL at the system's edge." The atmosphere in the control room shifted instantly from academic curiosity to concern. Haven's Watch wasn't due for a supply run for another 30 cycles, and their location was carefully hidden to protect their research. Tal moved quickly to the main sensor array, his movements precise despite his growing anxiety. 8 vessels, he reported, his bioluminescence dimming to concerned purples. "Configuration unknown. They're not matching any registered civilian or research vessels." Lyra's patterns flashed with alarm as new data scrolled across her screen. Energy readings suggest heavy weapon systems. First observer, they're following a search pattern. Methodical. Military. The Lumini were not warriors. Their species had evolved as peaceful researchers and artists, their bodies adapted for life in the gentle currents of their homeworld's vast oceans. When they reached for the stars, they did so in search of knowledge, not conquest. Haven's Watch had minimal defenses, designed primarily to protect against stellar radiation and micrometeorites. "Send an emergency alert to the Council," Tal ordered, though they both knew help would take days to arrive, if it came at all. The Council's response times were notoriously slow, bound by layers of tradition and procedure. Lyra's patterns flickered with hesitation. "First observer, there might be another option." Tail turned all 4 of his sensor clusters toward her. "Speak freely, Chief Researcher." "The humans," she said simply. "We still have the emergency frequency they gave us after the trade negotiations last cycle." The mention of humans sent a ripple of complex emotions through the control room. The Lumini's first contact with humanity had been less than a cycle ago, when a human exploration vessel discovered their research outpost in a neighboring sector. The initial meeting had been tense. The humans' dense bodies and powerful movements had triggered instinctive fear responses in the Lumini crew. But what followed had surprised everyone. The humans, despite their intimidating physical presence, had shown remarkable patience and gentleness in their interactions. They carefully moderated their movements, spoke softly, and displayed genuine interest in Lumini culture and research. A trade agreement was established, and with it came a promise. If the Lumini ever needed help, they need only ask. The Deathworlders, Tal mused, using the common term for species evolved on high-gravity worlds. They're so far away, and their ships are built to withstand forces that would tear our vessels apart. Lyra finished. Yes, but they promised, first observer. They said they would come. Another alert flashed. The unknown vessels had adjusted course. They were now heading directly for Haven's Watch, their weapons systems powering up. Tal's patterns shifted to decisive gold. Send the signal, he ordered. Everything we have on these ships and our situation. He paused, watching the approaching vessels on the main display. And Lyra, add a personal message. Tell them we're calling in that promise. Lyra's appendages flew across the controls, composing and sending the distress call. The quantum entanglement transmitter, a gift from the humans. Activated, sending their plea for help instantly across thousands of light years to Earth. In the hours that followed, the unknown vessels drew closer, their intentions becoming clear as they began jamming standard communication frequencies. The Lumini continued their work, downloading research data and preparing emergency protocols, all while watching their sensors with diminishing hope. Then, just as the first vessel entered weapons range, a new signal cut through the jamming. The message was brief, but it sent waves of relief through every Lumini in the outpost. Haven's Watch. This is Admiral Chen of Earth Fleet Command. The 15th Rapid Response Fleet is mobilizing. Hold fast. We remember our promise. Unknown to the Lumini, the message that arrived on Earth had already set in motion one of the largest rapid deployments in human military history. Across Earth's orbital shipyards, crews scrambled to their stations. Engineers pushed fusion reactors to their limits. Marine units suited up in their powered armor. Because humans had indeed made a promise. And now, the galaxy was about to learn why Earth's children were called Deathworlders, not because they sought violence, but because when their friends needed help, nothing in the universe could stop them from providing it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood motionless before the quantum display, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic representation of Haven's Watch's distress signal. Around her, Earth Fleet Command's Strategic Operations Center hummed with controlled chaos as officers relayed orders and coordinated the massive mobilization effort. Analysis confirms 8 vessels of unknown configuration. Captain Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across his neural interface. Energy signatures suggest advanced weapon systems, but their hull composition is relatively light, typical of species evolved in low-gravity environments. Chen's eyes narrowed. 20 years of service had taught her that unknown configuration usually meant hostile intent. The fact that these ships were actively jamming Haven's Watch's communications only confirmed her suspicions. Time to intercept if we push the drives to maximum, she asked, though she already knew the answer wouldn't be good enough. 16 hours, Admiral, even with the new Coleman-Jong drive modifications. Chen's jaw tightened, too long. The Lumini were peaceful researchers, their defenses minimal. They wouldn't last 16 hours against a determined assault. She needed a solution, and she needed it now. Get me the Phantom, she ordered. The room fell silent. The ESS Phantom was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a prototype vessel equipped with experimental quantum tunnel drive technology. It could cross vast distances in hours instead of days, but the stress on both ship and crew was enormous. Admiral, Rodriguez started, the Phantom hasn't completed its final trials. The medical team's report on the physiological effects of quantum tunnel travel is noted. Chen cut him off. But I made a promise to those people. We all did, and I intend to keep it. She turned to face the command center staff. This is volunteer only. I won't order anyone to undertake this risk. One by one, hands raised across the room. Chen felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its finest, not the brute strength that other species feared, but the unwavering courage to help those in need, regardless of the personal cost. Contact the Phantom's crew, she ordered. I want them ready for emergency deployment in 30 minutes. As the command center erupted into action, Chen's thoughts drifted to her first meeting with the Lumini. She'd been careful then, so careful to move slowly and speak softly. Their terror at her mere presence had been evident in their flickering bioluminescent patterns, but they'd moved past that fear, built trust, formed bonds of friendship and commerce. Now it was time to show the galaxy another side of humanity, the side that would move heaven and earth to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Aboard the Phantom, Captain Maya Patel received the alert with grim determination. Her ship, sleek and dark against the backdrop of Earth's orbital shipyards, was already coming alive as crew members rushed to their stations. Engineering reports quantum tunnel drive is charging. Lieutenant Sarah Wong reported from her station. Medical is prepping stimulant packs for the crew. They're recommending triple doses to counteract the temporal distortion effects. Patel nodded. The quantum tunnel drive didn't just bend space. It twisted it, created impossible shortcuts through the fabric of reality itself. The human body wasn't meant to experience such distortions. But then, humans had a long history of doing things they weren't meant to do. All hands, this is the captain, she announced shipwide. We've received a distress call from Haven's Watch. The Lumini research outpost is under threat from unknown hostile forces. Command has authorized us to attempt a quantum tunnel jump to respond. She paused, letting the implications sink in. This is a volunteer mission. Anyone who wishes to step down, now is the time. The only response was the sound of crew members checking their equipment and securing their stations. Very well, Patel continued, allowing herself a small smile. Battle stations. Prepare for quantum tunnel initiation. In the ship's marine bay, Sergeant Major Marcus Chen, no relation to the Admiral, supervised as his troops conducted final checks on their powered armor. The Phantom's complement of Marines was small but elite, specially trained for operations in variable gravity environments. Remember your training, he called out as his team worked. The Lumini's artificial gravity is set to 1/6 Earth normal. That means we'll be 6 times stronger than we already are in the armor. Control your movements. We're there to protect them, not accidentally tear their station apart. One of the younger Marines, Private Rodriguez, looked up from his suit diagnostics. What about the hostiles, sir? Any intel on their capabilities? Unknown configurations, Chen replied. But remember, whatever they are, they evolved in low-gravity environments, just like the Lumini. That means their ships, their weapons, their armor. It's all designed for forces far less than what we're used to. He grinned. In other words, we're about to show them why Earth is called a death world. Throughout the Phantom, similar scenes played out as crew members prepared for what might be the most dangerous mission of their lives. The quantum tunnel drive hummed louder, its experimental systems charging with enough energy to tear a hole in space-time itself. On the bridge, Captain Patel received the final authorization from Admiral Chen. Phantom, you are cleared for emergency quantum tunnel jump. Good hunting, and bring our friends home safe. Acknowledged command, Patel responded. She took a deep breath, looking around at her crew. They were ready. They were willing. They were about to attempt something no human ship had ever done. A combat deployment via quantum tunnel drive. Helm, plot course for Haven's Watch. Engineering, quantum tunnel drive to full power. Medical, begin stimulant distribution. Her voice was steady, confident. Let's show these hostiles what happens when you threaten those under humanity's protection. The Phantom's engines flared to life, its experimental drive beginning to twist the very fabric of space around the ship. In 16 minutes, they would either make history or become it. But one thing was certain. Help was coming to Haven's Watch, faster than anyone in the galaxy would believe possible. And with that help came humanity's message to the galaxy. Those who prey on the weak would learn why Earth's children were both respected and feared throughout known space. The void between stars held many terrors, but few were as feared as the Nexer Dominion. Their ships, now surrounding Haven's Watch, gleamed with an oily black sheen that seemed to devour light itself. Within the lead vessel, Fleet Commander Vrax observed the Lumini outpost through compound eyes that had witnessed the extinction of 3 civilizations. Such fragile beings, he chittered to his bridge crew, mandibles clicking in amusement. See how their structures ignore all practical military considerations. Pure researchers, untouched by the harsh realities of space. His exoskeleton rippled with anticipation. The artifacts they've discovered, however, will serve the Dominion well. The Nexer had been tracking the Lumini's progress for months, watching as they unknowingly uncovered technologies that predated even the oldest spacefaring races. The energy signatures from the ruins had grown stronger with each passing day. Confirming what Vrax had suspected, this wasn't just another archaeological site. This was a weapon cache, left behind by beings who had mastered powers that the current galaxy's inhabitants could barely comprehend. Status of their communications, he demanded. Still blocked, Commander, his communications officer reported, though there was a brief energy spike shortly after our arrival. Unknown frequency, gone before we could analyze it. Vrax's antennae twitched in irritation, but he dismissed the concern. The Lumini were not known for their military capabilities. Whatever signal they might have sent would bring no meaningful help. Not in time. At least, inside Haven's watch, First Observer Tal coordinated their desperate preparations. The Lumini might be peaceful by nature, but they weren't helpless. Centuries of scientific research had given them tools that could be repurposed for defense, even if violence went against their deepest instincts. Gravitational research labs 3 through 7 are secured, Lyra reported, her patterns showing stress but determination. We've modified the field generators to create localized gravity wells. If they breach the outer hull, they'll find movement more difficult than they expect. Tal finished. Good. What about the artifacts? Data transfer is at 60%. We're encoding everything through the quantum channels the humans provided. Lyra's patterns flickered with worry. But First Observer, the core energy signature is still growing. Whatever the ancients built down there, it's becoming more active with each passing hour. Tel drifted to the main observation window, watching as the Nexer ships maintained their blockade formation. The Lumini had encountered their kind before, though always at a safe distance. The Nexer were scavengers of the worst sort. They found civilizations that had discovered valuable artifacts or technologies, then stripped them bare, caring nothing for the knowledge lost or lives destroyed in the process. They're not just here for our research, he realized aloud. They've detected the energy signature. They think we found weapons. A new alert flashed across their screens. The Nexer were launching boarding craft. Small, sleek vessels designed to breach station hulls and deliver troops. The Lumini's passive scans picked up life signs within them. Dozens of Nexer warriors, their bodies evolved for combat in the lightless caverns of their homeworld. All research teams to secure positions, Tal ordered through the station's communication system. Activate emergency protocols. Remember your training. He turned to Lyra. How long since we sent the signal? 4 hours, 12 minutes, she responded instantly. Her patterns showed a complex mix of hope and fear. The humans. They said they would come. But the distance. They'll come, Tal said with more confidence than he felt. Until then, we protect the station. We protect our work. His patterns strengthened to a determined blue. We show them that being peaceful doesn't mean being weak. The first impacts shook Haven's watch as boarding craft attached themselves to the outer hull. Cutting beams began to slice through the station's outer layers, slowly, thanks to the human suggestions about reinforcing critical areas, but steadily. Throughout the station, Lumini researchers activated defenses that no one had ever expected to use. Atmospheric processing plants began generating localized clouds of disorienting gases. Gravity plating shifted unexpectedly, throwing borders off balance. Research drones, reprogrammed for defense, swarmed through corridors with scanning beams that overloaded neural systems. In the central lab, Lyra worked frantically to decode the latest data from the ruins. The energy signature had become a pulsing rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the station's own power grid. First Observer, she called out, her patterns shifting to shocked white. "I think I understand what we found. The ruins, the artifacts. They're not weapons at all. They're—" The station shook violently as the Nexer breached the outer defenses. Through the observation windows, Tal could see boarding parties entering through multiple points. The Nexer moved with predatory grace, their chitinous armor reflecting the station's emergency lighting. "Fall back to secondary positions," he ordered. "Activate all defensive measures. We just need to hold out a little longer." He turned to Lyra. "Keep working. Whatever's down there, we can't let the Nexer reach it first." The next hours were a blur of desperate defense. The Lumini, using their natural agility in low gravity and their intimate knowledge of the station's layout, managed to slow the Nexer advance, but they were researchers facing trained warriors. Bit by bit, section by section, the invaders pushed deeper into Haven's watch. "Commander," Vrax's tactical officer called out, "we're detecting an energy surge from the ruins. Whatever the Lumini found down there, it's becoming highly active." Vrax's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Accelerate the assault. I want that technology secured before." New contact. The sensor operator suddenly chittered in alarm. Massive energy signature just appeared at the system's edge. Configuration unknown, but the power readings. Vrax turned to the tactical display just as a new ship materialized in a burst of impossible energies. It was smaller than his vessels, but bristled with weapons unlike anything he'd seen before. Its hull was dark, sleek, and built to withstand forces that would tear his ships apart. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer reported, its voice trembling. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "This is Captain Maya Patil of the EFSS Phantom," a calm human voice announced. "You are engaged in hostile actions against a protectorate of humanity. Stand down immediately or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." In that moment, as his crew stared at the readings from this impossible ship that had arrived far sooner than any known drive system should allow, Vrax realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had assumed that distance would protect him from interference. He had assumed that no one would risk their own safety for the gentle Lumini. He had forgotten that humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day of their existence. He had forgotten that such beings, when they chose to protect others, could achieve the impossible through sheer determination. The 30 seconds began to count down, and the galaxy held its breath. The 30 seconds passed in absolute silence. Captain Patil stood on the Phantom's bridge, her body still adjusting to the aftereffects of quantum tunnel travel. Every muscle ached, every nerve screamed, but her voice remained steady as she addressed the Nexer fleet. "Time's up," she announced. "Since you've chosen not to withdraw, we'll proceed with removal by force." She nodded to her tactical officer. "Lieutenant Wong, show them what a human warship can do." The Phantom's main gun spoke once. A beam of concentrated energy, powered by a reactor that could rival a small star, lanced out across space. It struck the nearest Nexer vessel dead center. The ship's shields, designed to withstand the weapons of a dozen species, lasted less than a second before failing. The beam continued through, cutting the vessel in half as cleanly as a surgeon's laser. In his command ship, Vrax watched in horror as one of his best vessels died in a single shot. "Impossible," he chittered. "Their power readings. No ship that small should be capable of such output." "All ships, open fire," he ordered, mandibles clicking frantically. "Destroy that human vessel." The remaining Nexer ships responded, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons and projectiles. The space around the Phantom lit up like a newborn star as multiple weapon systems converged on the human vessel. On the Phantom's bridge, Patil allowed herself a small smile. "Helm, combat pattern Delta. Show them why we spent 3 years perfecting our inertial dampeners." The Phantom moved, not with the graceful, measured movements of ships designed for lower gravity species, but with the raw power of a vessel built by Deathworlders. It accelerated at forces that would have crushed any Nexer crew to paste, its advanced dampening systems allowing the human crew to withstand maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Marine teams, launch, paddle ordered. Get our people into Haven's Watch. Priority is securing the Lumini and their research. In the launch bay, Sergeant Major Chen felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as his drop pod prepared for launch. Around him, 24 Marines in powered armor checked their weapons one final time. "Remember," he called out, "we're dealing with a low-gravity species. They're strong in their environment, but our armor gives us Earth-equivalent strength, even in zero-G control your movements. We're here to save the station, not accidentally punch through its walls." The drop pods launched, streaking through the chaotic battlefield toward Haven's Watch. Nexer point defense systems tried to track them, but the pod's ECM suites, combined with their sheer velocity, made them nearly impossible to hit. Inside Haven's Watch, First Observer Tail felt the station shake as the first human drop pods impacted. But unlike the Nexer's brutal breach points, these impacts were precisely calculated, hitting reinforced sections that could withstand the force. The first pod's hatch blew open, and Sergeant Major Chen stepped out, his powered armor making him look like a walking tank. He moved with careful precision, conscious of his overwhelming strength and the station's low gravity. "Haven's Watch. This is Earth Marine Strike Team Alpha," he announced over the station's comm system. "We're here to help. Direct us to where we're needed most." Lyra's voice came back, her patterns showing relief even through the audio feed. "Multiple Nexer breach teams advancing on the central labs. They're trying to reach the ruins' power source." "Understood," Chen replied. "Strike teams, move out. Show these raiders why you don't mess with humanity's friends." The Marines advanced through Haven's Watch's corridors, encountering Nexer boarding parties that had never faced anything like them. The raiders' weapons, designed for combat against other low-gravity species, barely scratched the humans' powered armor. In return, the Marines demonstrated why Earth-born soldiers were both respected and feared. Their movements were carefully controlled but devastatingly effective. Each punch, enhanced by both powered armor and the low-gravity environment, sent Nexer warriors flying. Their weapons, calibrated for Earth-normal conditions, cut through the raiders' armor like paper. Back in space, the battle had become a deadly dance. The Phantom continued to demonstrate maneuvers that the Nexer had believed impossible, its human crew withstanding forces that would have killed most species. Each time the Nexer thought they had the smaller vessel cornered, it would pull off another physics-defying turn. "Status report," Vrax demanded, watching another of his ships fall to the Phantom's weapons. "Human boarding teams have breached our forces inside the station," his tactical officer reported. "Our troops, they're being overwhelmed. These humans, they're too strong, too fast. They're just animals from a heavy-gravity world." Vrax snapped. "They can't possibly." His words cut off as new alarms blared. The Phantom had somehow slipped through their formation, and now sat directly above his command ship, its main gun pointed straight at their bridge. "This is your final warning," Captain Patel's voice came through again. "Your boarding parties are being eliminated. Your ships are outmatched. Surrender now, or we will be forced to demonstrate exactly why Earth is classified as a death world." Inside Haven's Watch, Sergeant Major Chen and his Marines had reached the central labs. The remaining Nexer forces, realizing they faced warriors evolved under crushing gravity and equipped with powered armor, began throwing down their weapons. "Central labs secured," Chen reported. "Lumini research teams safe. Multiple Nexer prisoners under guard." He turned to Lyra, who floated nearby. "Are you all right?" "Yes," she replied, her patterns showing a mix of awe and gratitude. We knew humans were strong, but seeing you in combat, we prefer peace," Chen said simply. "But when our friends are threatened, we can be whatever we need to be." The battle was ending, but its impact would echo through the galaxy. The day when humanity showed that its protection meant something. When the galaxy learned that humans weren't just strong, They were strong with purpose, powerful with reason, and utterly unstoppable when defending those they'd sworn to protect. 3 days after the Battle of Haven's Watch, the system buzzed with activity of a different kind. The HFY Valiant, flagship of Earth's 15th Fleet, held position near the research station, its massive form a silent guardian against any who might consider testing humanity's resolve. Smaller vessels patrolled the system's edges, their sensors alert for any sign of remaining Nexer forces. Admiral Chen stood in Haven's Watch's newly reconstructed conference chamber, her dress uniform pristine as she faced representatives from 12 species. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council's Security Committee had been convened as soon as news of the battle spread. "Let us be clear," she addressed the assembled diplomats, her voice carrying easily in the low gravity. "Humanity did not seek this conflict. We responded to a distress call from friends who needed help. The Nexer's choice to continue their aggression after warning forced our hand." A Vorathi representative, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of concern, spoke up. "The deployment of the quantum tunnel drive technology. Many species are concerned about its implications. Such rapid military response capability was developed for exactly this purpose." Chen interrupted firmly. "To protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Phantom's mission demonstrates humanity's commitment to our allies, nothing more." In the station's research levels below, Chief Researcher Lyra worked alongside human scientists. Their collaborative efforts focused on the ancient ruins that had inadvertently triggered the crisis. Her patterns shifted through shades of wonder as she explained their findings to Sergeant Major Chen, who had stayed behind to coordinate security. "It wasn't a weapons cache at all," she explained, her translator barely keeping up with her excitement. "The ruins, the power signature. It's a library, the most comprehensive database of ancient knowledge ever discovered. The energy readings were its automated systems reactivating after millennia of dormancy." Chen smiled, watching human and Lumini researchers working side by side. "So the Nexer started a war over a misunderstanding. A library that contains technological and scientific knowledge far beyond current understanding," Lyra corrected, her patterns showing amusement. "Though I suspect they would have been disappointed by its actual contents. The ancients were like us, more interested in learning than warfare." In his temporary cell aboard the Valiant, Fleet Commander Vrax awaited transport to face charges before the Galactic Council. His mandibles clicked softly as he addressed Captain Puddle during her inspection. "You could have destroyed us," he said, compound eyes studying her carefully. "When we refused to surrender initially, why didn't you?" Patel's expression remained neutral. "Because that's not who we are, Commander. Humanity's strength isn't in our ability to destroy. It's in our choice not to, when there are better alternatives. Your ship, your warriors, we never stood a chance." Vrax continued. "The stories about Deathworlders didn't do you justice. The stories focus on the wrong things," Patel replied. "Yes, we evolved on a high-gravity world. Yes, we're physically stronger than most species. But our real strength—" She gestured to a nearby viewport, where human crews could be seen working alongside Lumini to repair the station. "It's in building things, protecting things, making the galaxy better, not just conquering it." The implications of Haven's Watch rippled through galactic society. The Nexer Dominion, faced with evidence of their crimes and humanity's demonstrated ability to respond to threats with overwhelming force, withdrew from contested territories. Smaller species, particularly those focused on research and exploration, began reaching out to Earth for trade agreements and protection pacts. 1 month after the battle, Haven's Watch had been transformed. Human engineering crews had helped reinforce its structures while maintaining their ethereal beauty. A permanent Earth fleet station now orbited nearby, its presence both protective and symbolic. The Joint Research Initiative studying the ancient library had drawn scientists from dozens of species. First Observer Tull and Admiral Chen stood in the station's observation dome, watching vessels from multiple species come and go peacefully. "The Council has approved our proposal," Chen said. Haven's Watch will become the first joint species research institute, a place where knowledge is freely shared and protected. Tal's patterns showed deep satisfaction. And the human presence will remain, but purely in a defensive and support capacity. We're here to protect and assist, not to control. Some species still fear you, Tal noted. After seeing your capabilities at Haven's Watch, they worry about humanity's potential for dominance. Chen smiled softly. Then we'll keep showing them what that potential is actually for. Every time we use our strength to protect rather than conquer. Every time we choose to build rather than destroy. Every time we prove that being powerful doesn't mean we can't also be kind. In the ruins below the station, human and Lumini researchers continued their work, unlocking secrets that had waited millennia to be discovered. The ancient library's power signature pulsed steadily, as if approving of this collaboration between species. The Lumini researchers' patterns shifted to curiosity as they uncovered a new dataset. This is interesting, they called out to their human colleague. According to these records, the ancients had a saying, "True strength lies not in the ability to take life, but in the choice to protect it." The human scientists smiled, recognizing an echo of their own species' journey. Maybe they weren't so different from us after all. Above, Haven's Watch continued its serene orbit, its crystalline spires now reinforced with human engineering, creating something new and beautiful, much like the partnership it represented. The station stood as a testament to what could be achieved when strength was guided by wisdom, when power was tempered by compassion, and when the most formidable species in known space chose to be not conquerors, but protectors. For in the end, that was humanity's greatest achievement, not that they could dominate the galaxy, but that they chose not to. They had taken their Deathworld heritage and turned it into a shield for those who needed protection, a foundation for those who sought to build, and a promise to any who would threaten the peace they had helped create. The galaxy had learned an important lesson at Haven's Watch. Humanity's strength was terrifying not because of its potential for destruction, but because of its dedication to protection. And that, perhaps, was the most powerful message of all.